I think the most important place to start is to try and understand what distraction really is. And the best way to understand what distraction is to understand what it is not.
Right.
So the opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. They both come from the same Latin root, trahare, and they both end in the same 6-letter word, A-C-T-I-O-N, action. So traction is any action that pulls you towards what you want to do. Right? Anything that you plan to do with intent, do it. And if that includes Facebook or Instagram or watching football, whatever it is that you want to do with your time, terrific, do it. The opposite of traction is distraction. So anything that pulls you away from what you plan to do. So for me, the seminal moment when I realized I had to work on this problem was when I was with my daughter one afternoon, and we had this afternoon just to spend together. And we had this book, this activity book that daddies and daughters could use to, get close to each other, and different games we could play. And one of the activities was to ask each other this question: if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you want? And I remember the question verbatim, but I can't tell you what she said, because in that moment, I got distracted. I was looking at my phone, and I wasn't fully present. I didn't hear what she said. She got the idea, she got the hint, and she realized that whatever was on my phone was more important than she was, and she left the room. And I told this story to a friend of mine, and he asked his daughter, we have children of the same age, and he asked his daughter what superpower she would want. And she said that she would want the superpower to talk to animals. And he said, talk to animals, why is that? And she said, because when mommy and daddy are on their phones, now I'll have someone to talk to.
Whoa.
Oh.
That's a low blow,
Harsh,
isn't it?
right? Harsh. And so that's really when I tried to figure out what to do about it. Now, the first thing I did was read every book on the topic, and they all basically said the same thing. It's technology's fault, technology's to blame, get rid of your technology. But I don't have that luxury, right? I need to use this technology. Most people can't just get rid of email. You can't get rid of using these products. They're great if you know how to use them. So I take a very tech positive approach, and the idea here is that we can get the best out of these tools without letting them get the best of us.
Yeah, it's like your mind, though, isn't it? It's fine to have thoughts as long as your thoughts don't end up having you. It's when they come back to get you, if you like.
Yeah, you don't have to believe everything you think.
But it's like we said this about washing machines, about household, domestic products, automatic domestic mechanization, that they were there to help you out. But now, because we're less active, they're actually doing us a disservice. So then we sign up for gym membership, and we go to gyms to get on other machines to take the fat off the machines we bought to over convenience and comfort ourselves caused in the first place. And you talk about gyms, don't you? You talk about the mad business plan of gyms, which is it's not criminal, but it's not far off, is it? To take us through that, if you don't mind.
Well, I think Paul Virilio said it best, the philosopher. He said that when you invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck. That there's no way that a technological revolution that we are experiencing today is not going to have some negative repercussions. Of course it does. Absolutely it does. But the solution is not to try and go backwards to the days before these things. They're not going away, right?
Yeah.
We have to use these things. They're very valuable to us. The idea is, how do we use them in a way that doesn't harm us, that we can make sure that we get the best out of them.
The business model for gyms, the original business model for health clubs, gyms, relied on their customers not turning up.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
that's never, isn't it? We are mad. Human beings are mad. So once you'd read all these books and they all went back to things that were too predictable and didn't do us any good, you then originated all these thoughts, all these philosophies, and they're all brilliant. How do you come up with them then? If I don't understand how you sit back at home and you go, okay, well, one way around that might be. How do you come up with them, and how do you know they work? By the way, I think they do. I don't disagree.
No.
But how come you have all the answers in this book, which you do seem to have?
There is a massive competitive advantage these days that I think is very rare, which is this time to think. That very few of us make time in our day to just think for a few minutes. And yet, for knowledge workers out there, for folks who, it doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're a marketer, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're, whatever you're doing as a knowledge worker, your product, what you create for a living, is novel solutions to hard problems. That's what you do every day in the office. But you can't do that stuff unless you make time in your day to strategize, to think. But so few people do that. We are constantly reacting, meetings and emails all day long, where we have no time for reflection.
Yeah, most of the greats are greats in private. for most of the time, and now and again they're great in public, but they're so great in public because they've been so great in private that they've become legends and world renowned.
So it took me 5 years of concentration.
Exactly. No, I know. I mean, and there's stuff in here, you know, make time for your traction, get back to some hack back external triggers, how to make your workplace indistractable. And we won't talk about these because they're in the book and you want to sell the book, and I get that. How to raise indistractable children. Who doesn't want to read that? Chapter 6. Can you stay here for a bit longer?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to talk to our special guest next about barefoot running, which is something else he also does.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.